and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar session. We'll be starting off in a few minutes. However, we've gone live so that this allows us all to be able to log in to the session. So we'll be kicking off in 5 minutes. Welcome. We'll be kicking off in the next 3 minutes. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to an amazing webinar titled TechFrontiers, Education Beyond Limits. Promises to be an educative and informative experience. We have with us two great speakers who will be joining us for this session. Welcome.
Edvis is Africa's leading digital educational platform, which enables administration, communication, finance, teaching, and learning beyond the classroom. Edvis allows you as a parent to access and track your child's academic reports and personal growth at any time, giving you a better understanding of your child's academic performance.
Have a nice day at school.
We give you the security and reassurance you need to excel in your daily activities and manage your financial obligations to your child's education. Edvis provides an administrative and management system which enhances accountability, teamwork, and growth needed for a thriving organization. Which brings perfect results. Teach creatively, learn effectively, track your child's performance easily, and do so much more with Edvis. Edvis, digital education. Visit www.edvis.net to get started now.
Okay, so good everyone. Distinguished educators, school leaders, parents, and all our esteemed stakeholders in education. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to this exciting and transformative webinar. Today, we're going to be exploring the theme Tech Frontiers, Education Beyond Limits. Today, we stand at a defining moment where technology and education intersect, and the rapid evolution of STEM is shaping the future of learning, careers, and innovation. In recent years, the future of works has become a major global discussion. The World Economic Forum Futures of Job Reports in 2025 estimates that over 170 million jobs will be created this decade as a result of global trends and technological advancements. Many of these jobs will require expertise in areas like artificial intelligence, robotics, and data analytics. Countries like Finland and South Korea have set global benchmarks in STEM education, using structured programs to drive economic growth and innovation. According to UNESCO, two-thirds of the world's fastest growing careers today require STEM skills. This highlights the urgent need to equip students with the right knowledge and hands-on experience to thrive in an increasingly digital world. Here in African strides in STEM education, Rwanda, for example, has successfully integrated coding into their school curricula and established innovation hubs to empower young learners with 21st century skills. In Nigeria, we've seen growth in the tech hub, digital skills training, and government-backed scheme initiatives. However, there's still a long way to go. A World Bank report shows that less than 20% in Nigeria are enrolled in STEM courses, and only 15% of STEM professionals in the country are women. This gender gap, along with infrastructural deficits and limited hands-on learning, is restricting the full potential of STEM education in Nigeria. That's why we're here today, to discuss practical solutions for advancing STEM education, address challenges like teachers' readiness and inclusivity, and explore ways to ensure that every child is prepared for a technology-driven future. To guide us through this conversation, we have two outstanding speakers who are champions of STEM education. We have with us Mrs. Jadisola Adedeji, an impact entrepreneur and a leader in STEM education. She's the CEO of STEMnet Resources, an organization dedicated to empowering young leaders with STEM skills. She's also an Acumen Fellow 2024, a Vital Voice Fellow 2023, and a Praxis Business Fellow 2020. With her extensive experience, she's at the forefront of bridging the STEM education gap and fostering innovation among young learners. We also have with us Mrs. Adeola Akinsulure, who is a passionate educator and mentor in STEM education. She's a Fulbright Teaching Excellence and Achievement Fellow and a member of Mentors at the New York Academy of Sciences. As founder of STEM Collaborators, she is committed to equipping students with the knowledge and skills they need to succeed in an evolving digital world. We're honored to have them here with us today, and we look forward to gaining insights from their expertise. Thank you all for being part of this important conversation. Together, let's ensure that STEM education is not just a subject in school, but a foundation for sustainable growth, innovation, and limitless possibilities. So I'll be bringing on stage our speakers. Welcome, Ma. Welcome, Mrs. Jadisola Dedeji. Welcome, Mrs. Adeola Sulure. We're really excited to have you here with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's
Thank you.
also an honor to be a co-speaker with Mrs. Jadisola Dedeji. Thank you for the platform.
Thank you,
Great.
Chuka. It's a pleasure to be here. Nice to see you again. Nice to meet you,
Yes,
Mrs.
it is.
Akishure.
Thank you, Ma.
Okay. So Ma, I guess I'll throw this first question to you, Mrs. Jadisola Dedeji. Can you share with us a moment or an experience that made you realize the true impact of STEM education and why you believe it is essential in today's learning environment?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. Again, thank you for having me. I'm always excited when I have to talk about STEM. It's more than it's a passion for me. And I think firstly, I would like to start with what STEM is and what STEM is not. So STEM is not just coding. STEM is not just robotics. STEM is not just, computers and laptop. STEM is actually a innovative way of learning and teaching. It's interdisciplinary in that it brings in various aspects of science, technology, engineering, and math. And basically, it's a concept that helps develop problem solving, creativity, and innovative skills. So essentially, it helps develop thinking skills. That's the bottom line of what it is. So STEM doesn't equate coding, and coding doesn't equate STEM. It's a component of it, but that's not all it is. So I feel that's important to get that out there first. First experience, I think, our company STEMnet was founded out of a personal need or observation. Namely, my son struggling in school. That rote learning of cramming and regurgitating was a real challenge, and he was just losing interest in education. So, of course, as a mother, I started researching alternative ways of learning and teaching and came across the concept of STEM. Hands on, it's project based, it's more relatable, it's not just theory heavy. And that was what I felt suited his learning style. It was fun, it was innovative, and it was really creative. And so for me, that was the first hand experience I have. And I had, and I saw the restoration in terms of him even being enthusiastic and, just loving to learn again. And then in practical terms, over the last 10 years with STEMnet, we've seen it. We see it all the time when kids come and they're interacting with different tools, and, the engagement is definitely deeper. The learning is somewhat, more engaging, and they're enthusiastic to learn. And also the skills that are developed. So you see the transition, a child who comes in very shy, doesn't have that creative confidence, And participating in a STEM project or STEM activity, you can almost see the light bulb. So I think you can't underestimate the development of the soft skills which STEM education also brings. So it's not just the technical aspect of things, but it's also the soft skills development. So I think it's important to really throw that out in terms of how important it is in a child's learning journey. So I'll just leave it at that for now.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. Please, for those of us in the audience, if we have questions, we can always do well to put that in the chat. And by the time we are done with our conversation, then we would definitely look into the question. Thank you again. Thank you once again, Mr. Adedeji. For me, I think the key point where you said that STEM is not just coding, right? It's not just robotics. It's something that is key here. Because most of the time, when people hear the word STEM, the first thing that goes to their mind is coding and robotics. But this is not just what it is, right? It encompasses the entire growth of a learner, both his soft skills, his hard skills, and even the process of making learning enjoyable for learners, which is something that is largely lacking in a lot of classrooms where students are not really enjoying the process. So thank you very much for that, Ma, and thank you for sharing your story of how you came into the STEM space. And you talked about your son not having the interest in learning. Before I go to the next question, I would want you to show you just a short light on the current situation. I know you said he started enjoying learning, but how far has he taken this learning?
Yeah. Yeah, so the said son is now 25 this year, and he's been able to, uh, pursue a career in STEM actually. So he went on to study computer science, and then further on, he's a video game computer programmer now. So he stayed in that. Well, I don't know. They say I brainwashed them. Both my children are in STEM. They say they were brainwashed that they didn't really have a choice. But I say that well, they were exposed to a different world, and that kind of inspired your creativity and curiosity. So he now works as a video game programmer in a gaming studio in the UK.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so the story is still going on great. Thank you very much for that response, Ma. So my second question would go to Mrs. Adiola. So, Ma, I'd like to know, in your journey as an educator and a STEM advocate, have you encountered teachers struggling to incorporate STEM into their lessons? And what approaches have you seen or used that can help the teachers gain confidence and skills in delivering STEM education?
All right, thank you very much. Let me just quickly give a little background of where I am also coming from as an educator. So while I was as a student, personally, I struggled with learning science concepts, and after studying science courses for about 6 to 8 years, I left science. I went to management. I went for my master's in business administration, and I was doing pretty well in management science. You know, when you feel you're struggling in science and you move to another field and you're doing much more better. However, one of the courses that I took while I was doing my MBA was what we call marketing strategy. I was focused on marketing management. So one of the things that I learned was marketing strategy. So along the line, I just thought of it that science or STEM is can actually be likened to a product. And the right you well, even if you have the right, you have a very great product, you have a good product. If you don't have the right strategy, nobody's going to buy the product from you. So that was how I got to the point where if I have the right strategy to teach science as a product, definitely I'm going to help my students. So looking from my own background, along the line, I went back into education. That okay, after all, I'm not going into sciences for education. And when I went into education, I went with the mind of helping my students. That struggle that I had, none of my students is going to have it. And over the past 5 years, don't let me fine, I've been teaching for more than 10 years now. but I went fully into training, coupled with my teaching job over the past 5 years. And over the past 5 years, I've worked with more than 10,000 science teachers and more than 18,000 teachers as a whole. And I discovered that lots of teachers, they are actually struggling too. And one of the strategies that I have come up with is assisting them how they can facilitate their learning, STEM learning in their classes. And the first thing is that beyond cramming, beyond making your student, because how many things do they want to cram? For look at me, I teach biology. Biology itself is a very voluminous subject, and a student has to like go through my biology class, go through another physics class, chemistry class. So how many things do they want to cram? However, when they understand the concept, how as a teacher are you able to spark the interest of your students that when they come to class, beyond them learning or cramming facts, they actually understand the concept. They're able to relate it with what is happening around them. And one of the strategies that I teach students, that I teach educators is for authentic learning, for them to be able to relate every topic they teach in their classroom to what is happening around those students. For example, my mom died of colon cancer some years back. So when I'm teaching the digestive system of man, at some point she had a blockage in her large intestine, and they had to do a surgery to bypass that large intestine. So that surgery makes our undigested food to come out very watery. And what causes that? Why is the undigested food watery? Is watery because it never had an opportunity to enter into the large intestine. What's the function of the large intestine? Is to absorb water. So when you're able, these students, I remember after a particular class, a student came to me and that student said, "Ma, I have done the same surgery." And that student pulled up his shirt and showed me the bag that he's wearing. Some of them, they are really going through a lot. However, when you're able to relate it to what they can see around them, they tend to understand science more. I tell them, when you go to market, you see people, women selling vegetables, they sprinkle water on their vegetables. Some of them soak those vegetables inside water. Why are they doing that? That's when I'm teaching topic on probably turgidity and flaccidity. I think about 2 weeks ago, we were talking about circulatory system. I brought sphygmomanometer into the class. That's a sphig for blood pressure. They were so excited. So, how as educator are you able to bring alive authentic learning? How are you able to bring alive the concepts that you're teaching so that beyond cramming, your student can understand and relate what you're teaching them to everything that is happening around them? How are you able to make your teaching fun, role play? There are lots of strategies that they can bring into that I teach educators to bring into their classroom. Role play. You're teaching about the flow of blood. I'm sorry, I have to use biology because that's what I teach. So you're teaching about the flow of blood through the heart. Of course, they can't see it. Or maybe if they watch the video, maybe that's the highest you can do for them. You have the video of the flow of blood through the heart, and they've played it. You can actually make them play it out. So somebody is acting the vena cava, another person is acting aorta, somebody is acting the body. They're using red and blue balloons to depict oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. So there are lots of strategies that over the years I have actually helped educators to adopt in use of virtual labs. There are lots, and shadowing is also very important. Let me stop with that. Shadowing is when you consult somebody that is an expert. So you don't say, as educators, that, oh, I want to teach this topic. How best can I teach it? How best can I help my students with this?
Okay. Thank you very much, Ma, for that explanation. I think for me, one of the key things you said at the beginning was that you actually did a science course through your secondary, through your university, and something you pointed out got my attention. I noticed that you said something, you didn't really say it, but you inferred that teaching science is not the same as teaching STEM. right? So there are lots of schools that could generally be teaching science, biology, chemistry, and the likes. However, the way they deliver the lesson does not incorporate the concepts of STEM, right? And you also highlighted that one way you can always push them is to um, spark students' curiosity, right? Always use relational and authentic learning. It's still part of the questions we'll ask further down the line. The concept of making lessons relational to learners, right? Making lessons relational, making it authentic, role play, using virtual labs so that they can see in first hand how some of these things, right, are happening. And then you also talked about shadowing, which is another key part. While teachers are not the know all or do not have all the knowledge or information in the world, the ability to also bring in other external people who are experts in different fields goes a long way in pushing a specific information or passing across a specific type of knowledge to the learner. So thank you very much, Ma, for that feedback. So there's even a flow that takes us to our next question, where we're talking about digital infrastructures and accessibilities. So, Mrs. Jadisola Dedeji, reflecting on your experience working with schools of different socioeconomic status, right? How do you advise schools with limited access to technology resources to begin integrating STEM into their classrooms?
Thanks. And I love the examples that Mrs. Adiola had given, very practical, hands-on. As you said, we've worked in, high-end schools, we've worked in low-resource schools. And I always say that it's important for schools or teachers to understand that, STEM is not all about high-tech tools. STEM is about problem solving, critical thinking, and hands-on learning, as we've said. So having that mindset that you can use everyday materials or real world problems, to teach STEM, I think that is a basis that needs to be understood. I'm all for low tech, high impact. And using cardboards, wires, what topic are we doing? Is it physics, using recyclable materials? One of the programs that we're doing at the moment, where we're teaching maths, but we're coming at it from even using the animal kingdom. So they're talking about beehives. So there's a bit of biology there, Mr. Diola, insect, looking into the insect world. They're talking about biology on one aspect. You're talking about bees, what they do, how they pollinate, and all of that. But at the same time, in talking about the hives, they're actually doing math because they're now constructing beehives. What do you need? Pen and paper and a protractor and compass. So they're measuring angles to be able to make the honeycomb. So that's really combining math and biology. So you see that interdisciplinary approach that we have talked about. And as Mr. Adiola said, storytelling and role playing, we don't need technology to be able to do that. So we need to dispel that notion that, oh, we don't have the robotic kits, we don't have laptop or computers, and I've seen our teachers in low resource areas that have been very, very resourceful, with the limited technology resources that they have. I don't know if you remember a few years ago, this teacher in Ghana that went viral, that he was teaching computer science using the blackboard and how he had drawn out, the Microsoft Word without a computer, and he was trying to teach his children. So I think a lot of creativity and innovation, even from our teachers, in terms of how teaching and learning is done. And we've seen some of our teachers do phenomenal work. I think it's just that innate sense of curiosity and creativity and that devotion to ensuring that the children learn and achieve educational outcomes. And I think we've seen innovation and creativity despite our teachers' limitation that they themselves have employed, in trying to ensure that their students learn properly. So I'm all for low tech, high impact, and contend that in situations maybe in the rural areas, I think it's creativity and innovation from the teachers themselves that they bring into the classroom.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you for that response. Definitely, low-cost resources are things that teachers can always explore, right? They can explore with recyclable materials in their environment, like you highlighted. And then even the human resources, you have students in the classroom, you could do role play. Mrs. Um, you also talked about teachers being creative and innovative. That's another key thing. Teachers have to be willing, right, to put their foot forward and come up with creative ideas. You don't have to always keep thinking that you cannot do it because there are no these high-tech resources available in your school. If you continue to have this mindset, and students will continue to remain stagnant, and no teaching and learning will take place. And then we are trying to build children that would compete with in the global scale, right? So, and the funny thing about this is that when we are competing with these children in the international space, right, all the projects they are doing, everything they are coming up with are relational to them, right? So we should not be competing from the point of trying to imitate or mimic what they are doing, but we should be working around things that are relational to us, things that we understand, things that our students understand, things they see in their daily lives,
Yeah.
problems that they can solve in their daily life, and not even just trying to copy what is being done in other places. So thank
Yeah,
you very much.
I think it's really bringing it down to real life application in your own, context. As we know in our nation, the problems are plentiful. So part of even developing these STEM skills is how can you develop, local solutions, to local problems in your own environment. I think that's the biggest thing, and bringing in the concepts of STEM education and STEM learning allows them to be able to apply this knowledge that they've learned in theory and see how they can bring about solutions, to the problems that they're encountering locally and even globally. I mean, we have many examples of Nigerian companies that have really developed solutions which maybe originally were for local use, but are being used globally. Around fintech, around health tech and things like that. So it's really those skills are what are essential. If your thinking skills have been developed, there's really nothing that you can't do. The sky is truly the limit.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma. Thank you for that response. Like you said, you can always go low tech, high impact, right? I think that's the key word. You can go low tech, high impact. The goal is the impact and not necessarily the technological resources available. Okay, so we'll be taking a short break now. Like I stated earlier, please do well to put in your questions on the chat if you have any, as we're going to be going through some of these questions at the end of this chat session. So thank you very much. We'll be taking a short break now, and we'll be back within the next 5 minutes.
STEM. It's one of the most talked about topics in education. But what exactly is STEM? STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but it's more than that. STEM has grown to represent a unique approach to teaching and learning, one that centers around individual students' learning styles and interests. This means STEM education has something to offer every student. Unlike traditional education experiences in which subject areas are concentrated on separately, STEM education emphasizes technology and integrates subjects in ways that connect disciplines and relate them to each other. So why is STEM getting so much attention? STEM moves beyond simple test performance and focuses on developing higher-level thinking skills by connecting classroom learning to the real world. STEM emphasizes collaboration, communication, research, problem-solving, critical thinking, and creativity, skills that students need to be successful in today's world regardless of specific interests or career goals. STEM is a direct response to the realization that our future will be built on our capacity for innovation, invention, and creative problem solving.
This used to be me. Not anymore. With EdVest, I can oversee and access all my school records from any part of the world. From a single dashboard, I track enrollments, monitor e-learning activities from homework uploaded to video lessons shared, as well as e-notes and CBT. I view payments inflow at a glance, monitor performance, and track attendance. Running a paperless school and reducing operational costs It's possible with EdVest. EdVest CBT makes conducting school exams seamless, both online and on the school premises. It gets better. Parents can monitor their children's performance and pay fees. Amazingly, the days of being owed by parents are over. Parents can access school fees loan and you get paid in full. Students have access to assignments, video lessons, e-notes, quizzes, virtual classes, and over 160 math and science simulations. Beyond all this is EdVest's amazing support. It is top-notch. Over 1,300 schools across 10 countries in Africa use and love EdVest today. To see a free demo, log on to www.edvest.net/free demo. Use EdVest today.
Did you know that it takes an average of 6 months to a year to build a school's curriculum? Why burn that amount of time when with EdVest you can build your school's curriculum in 2 weeks? With EdVest AI and several pedagogies that you can access. Do you want to know how? Watch this next video.
Okay, so welcome back, everyone. I'll bring Mrs. Adiola back on stage.
All right, thank
Um,
you. Pardon me, my network was unstable at some point. Thank you.
No problem. I noticed that. Okay, so one of the things we've discussed so far in this webinar is the idea of relevance, right? Cultural relevance, making sure that what is being taught is relating to what the students are familiar with. So now, this question goes to you, Mrs. Adiola. Some people
Okay.
believe that STEM is like a foreign thing, right? It's a foreign concept, and that schools adopting it cannot adapt it to reflect local cultures or solve our own challenges. How would you respond to this? And how can schools ensure that STEM education is directed towards advancing local and national interests?
All right, thank you. So to start with, I would say that STEM is not exclusive like that in quote to any particular country. No, rather it's a universal approach to solving problem, like Mrs. Adedeji has mentioned earlier. It helps to build our critical thinking and for us to see local problems around us and for us to come up with solutions that will solve those local problems around us. So for me, it's a powerful tool that can be used to indigenize and to address local challenges that we have around us. And it's also important how the school takes it. I think Ms. Adedeji mentioned, by the time I came back, she mentioned indigenizing our STEM curriculum. Yes, that's very, very important. So imagine a teacher that is teaching biomes, for example. I'm sorry, I have to use biology examples. So we are talking about types of um, climate or types of what do I call it now? Biomes, or let me use biomes that we have around us. And we are talking about um, cold deserts. Cold desert is not necessarily here in Nigeria, so those students might not really understand. But when you tell them, you talk about tropical rainforests. Probably you're bringing pictures from Osun states, from river states. They can actually relate. You're talking about coastal habitats. You're talking about coastal and marine habitats around them. And you mentioned, can you the Third Mainland Bridge, the water under? Yes, they can relate. So it's important that the school is we are indigenizing and making it culturally relevant. The students can actually relate with what they can see around them. And it's also important for us to encourage the students to come up with solutions to problems around them. Like, for example, in my school, we have problem of waste management. So, however, that is in the past. It is no longer a problem now because the students themselves they came up with solutions. So when we're treating pollution, they add that our dump sites as their project, and they came up with a solution that permanently put an end to the problem that we have been having at our dump sites. And having issue of pollution is now history in my school. So it's important that as the school or those that are in charge of curriculum, as they are building or developing the curriculum, it's important that they bring in culturally responsive and related examples so that students and educators we can use examples around us. We are talking about, I remember a particular day I was teaching, I think marine habitat, river, yeah. And I mentioned, oh, that Kara bridge, oh, yes, they can relate. So that water that is flowing on that Kara bridge is Ogun River. They can relate with it. Instead of saying, mentioning probably habitat that is out of the country and they really cannot relate with it. And these students, when they can relate with what is happening around them, they give you more example. There was a time I taught them reproductive health, and we were discussing what can lead to um, mortality during childbirth. And a student walked up to me and was asking me more questions. Why? What else can, apart from what you have discussed in class, what else can lead to a pregnant woman dying during childbirth? Because my mother experienced that. And we started discussing. So that is what we should do. We should look inward instead of looking at examples that they really cannot place their hands on outside.
Okay. Thank you very much for that insightful information. I'm really glad I'm actually anchoring this event today because it also opens my mind to a lot of things. So one of the first things you talked about was indigenizing a STEM curriculum. And that's very
Yes.
important, making sure that the examples the students are utilizing or the teacher is giving in the classroom are culturally relevant, are things that the children see in their daily lives, are things that they understand in their homes. And also, you talked about getting the students involved, right? Let them work around problems that are affecting their immediate environment. Now, a lot of times, I'm happy you talked about the students getting involved in solving the problem of pollution in your school. Right? A lot of times, the school management or staff tries to distance the students from some of these things. But if these are challenges that the students are taking ownership from, you get to see them more excited to be involved in these things, right? They get to
Yeah.
internalize some of these challenges. They get to own some of these tasks. And when a person, be it a child or an adult, when a person can internalize or own a challenge, right, you see them trying to put in more effort to try and solve that challenge. So I believe that will go a long way, right? Definitely indigenizing our STEM curriculums, right? So that would definitely go a long way in us shifting from the mentality of taking STEM projects as this foreign thing and actually making it our own. Thank you very much, Ma, once again for that response.
Thank you.
So this would lead us to our next question. Mrs. Adedeji, our next question is talking about inclusion and equity in STEM. Right? At the beginning of the session, we talked about the popular misconception that STEM is a boys' field, right, or it's a man's field, and even the data is reflecting this in a way where it highlights that about only 15% of women are in STEM career fields. Now, can you share a story of a girl or a group of women who you believe have overcome this barrier to pursue STEM and what we can actually do to change this narrative? I know you are a living testimony, Mr. Deola is also a testimony. But how do you think we can overcome this challenge or this narrative of STEM being a boys-centered field? Your mic is mute.
Thanks. I think the onus is on people like myself, like you said, and Mrs. Adiola, in terms of speaking up and speaking out. For the longest time when we started STEM Met, I deliberately didn't make myself visible. I felt that, oh yeah, let's just do the work. We're here to do the work. Let's just get going. People will send me emails and they will say, "Dear Mr. Adidiji," I wouldn't correct them. I felt that let the work speak for itself. But along the line, I came to realize that um, when I did decide to step out, the response was phenomenal because they felt it was an education company, STEM or tech driven company. They felt automatically that there was a man behind it. So that was the first engagement that I got that I thought to myself, you know what, you need to, step out more, preach the gospel more for the lack of a better word, and be a role model yourself. And at the start, when we first started our company, I would even say like 95% of our facilitators and teachers were women. And that was half deliberate, half not. And it really stood to be an indirect role model when we go to schools. That look, I'm a woman and I'm the one doing the robotics thing here, or helping with the coding, or standing there in front of them as their teacher or facilitator in this thing that seems to be such an old boys club thing. So I think we ourselves, were able to start modeling, because you can't imagine what you can't see, right? Or you're not used to. For these young girls to also think, you know what, maybe I can do this. So I think, role modeling and mentorship is a key thing. And I think even starting early as well, in terms of early engagement, interacting, the girls, even from preschool and primary school, interacting and introducing them to certain things that may be perceived as, oh, it's a boy thing. And then thirdly, even our parents and our teachers, I think we need to also be mindful in dismissing interests that young girls may have in so-called unconventional careers or interests that, what's your business with trying to fix the fan? Go and call your brother, kind of thing. So I think some of those cultural, nuances also need to be dispelled in order to encourage more girls early enough. Having more female science teachers, again, that thing of role modeling. But of course, that can't happen unless the girl has been exposed, unless she now wants to have an interest in STEM, unless she now wants to go to university and study something STEM, for her to be a science teacher of sorts. So you can see that it's kind of like a domino effect, which I feel starts with, starting early. And then those of us that are in the STEM field of science, my background is in pharmacy, those of us that are there, bringing alongside and intentionally mentoring and being role models to other girls. And for our programs, we kind of intentionally, okay, what is the gender balance here? I know some people might be tired of that they've come again with this the gender thing, but it is important. We constitute 50% of the population, and diversity of thoughts through, diversity in gender helps everybody in the long run. So I think, even our setup here, some people may have a problem with it that, it's all these women. What do you expect them to say? But I think it's very important. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, man. And you're really right. First of all, as individuals, we need to be role models, right? While definitely there's the point where women who are already in STEM have to also continue to preach this message. I believe men too can also push this narrative that it's not just a boys' club, it's not just a man's thing, right? In fact, it's not. It has nothing to do with gender. The ability to think. Everyone has a brain. The ability to
Exactly.
think about the
Thinking
solution.
is gender neutral.
Exactly. Everyone has a brain, so we can all think. So that's one way we can go in actually dispelling this mindset that STEM is a boys' field. And for school administrators also, you can always start early before you get to the point where people are going into groups of boys and girls, right? When you're starting programs or initiatives from the nursery category, you're already giving a level playing field for everyone, right? That's one thing schools can do. Start very early. Do not push this into the mindset of your teachers also. Because I believe teachers to have this mindset too that, oh, maths is the boys that will do well in maths, it's the girls that will do well in English. But trying to consciously dispel these thoughts from the mindset of educators would also go a long way. And then mentorships, right? We can always mentor young people or good boys and girls, but always put into your consciousness that you need to check what exactly is the gender range. Are we having more boys? Are we having more girls? There needs to be a conscious effort to bring more girls involved into STEM, and I believe over time, with what is currently ongoing, this perspective will shift. It should definitely shift. Having over 50% of the population being women, and then only 15% of them are in STEM is not a great number. For countries that are evolving and countries that are growing, we are seeing a higher percentage of women in STEM fields, and this is part of what is making the economy of some of these other countries to grow. So I believe when we imbibe this in our own country, then things will start to turn for the better. So thank you very much for that, Mr. Adedeji. My next question will be for you, Mrs. Adiola.
Okay.
Now, we were talking about STEM and the future of work, right? The data shows that over 175 million jobs that will be coming up from even 2025 and into the future are in STEM related fields. So, from your own perspectives, what real world examples demonstrates how artificial intelligence, robotics, automation are changing the job markets? And what additional skills do you believe today's students must develop to stay competitive in this evolving landscape?
Okay, thank you very much. I remember some years back when I was in secondary school, then my parents would give me money to, well, when I get to Shagam from Lagos, I was schooling in Shagam. So when I get to Shagam, I have to go and pay. I remember that we can queue from morning till evening before I finally make that payment. Maybe it got a little bit better by the time I got to the university. I might not necessarily spend the whole day queuing up to pay. However, I can spend maybe like 4 or 5 hours. However, I think all that has even changed. I can't even remember the last time I entered into a banking hall. I think maybe the only time I would enter is to get my new ATM card. So that's what AI can do. There are a lot of, let's start with banking and finance. There are lots of AI powered chatbots that you feel is somebody that's actually behind there. So you don't need to enter into a particular bank now and queue for hours to finally say, please, I have issues with my account. No. So all you just need to do is get on your phone and just say hi, and the chatbot will say, hi, how are you today? How can I help you? And you say, this is my problem, and it will tell you, click this if you have issues with this. And we have automated teller machine. That's our ATM. We don't need to get into the bank before we get cash, probably, except if you have probably a, something that you can't withdraw from. If you have an amount that you can't withdraw from ATM, okay. Even with that, you might not even have to go into the bank. You can stay in the comfort of your home and use. There are lots of mobile apps now that you can use to make transfer. Let's move to our Greek. That's for banking and finance. Let's move to our Greek. I remember there was a time when I was working with New York Academy of Sciences, the girls we come up with a lot of projects, and one of the projects that I came across was the girls, they are teenagers now. They developed a sensor that they'll put it into the soil, and that sensor, what the sensor will do is that it will sense when the amount of water in the soil is low. It will trigger the watering system. So the plant now is getting the right amount of water. That's AI. So the plant is not being overwatered, because when you overwater a plant, it could lead to diseases. And at the same time, the plant is not being starved of water. However, I was even reading lately that in Dubai, I was watching a documentary of how they are actually one of their farming system, how they are using drone to apply fertilizer, to control disease, to check for water, beyond laying of drip tapes. I think in Nigeria, we are still at the level of laying drip tapes. So they've moved even beyond that. They've now automated most of these manually done activity. Let's look at manufacturing. There are lots of robotics and smart machine now that can handle repetitive tasks beyond just getting labor. Hold on. I'm sorry.
No problem.
So beyond handling, beyond getting people that will work as laborers and that, we now have machines that can do repetitive tasks and carry it out in hours. If probably it would take a human being days, they can do it in shorter time. And coming to education and e-learning, we have AI-driven platforms like Edverse that has personalized learning experiences for Nigerian students. And I was opportune to be part of the AI Africa Global Conference. Sometimes September last year, I had the opportunity to. I was part of the panelists that shared their experience. I was coming from a public school educator. I was talking from a public school perspective. One of the panelists, I think she's the deputy PEC, U.S. Consulate Lagos General. She was sharing with us that in the UK now, the researchers they have discovered therapy for patients with sickle cell by running algorithm with AI system. That is what automation can do. So they can people can have access to quality education system with AI. However, our students, there are lots of skills that they need to develop, while the additional skills that they need to develop while before they get into the job system, because the truth is the job system is changing by the day. So for them to remain competitive, it's important that they develop their digital literacy, they develop their problem solving and critical thinking skill, which Ms. Adedeji has been mentioning all along. Is very, very important. Is just beyond learning all the facts and science. No, it's important that they're able to come out and solve problems. So even if they're bringing AI automation into a particular system, there are still some things that AI and automation cannot replace. And those are the skills that we are talking about. During one of the break that we talked about STEM skills that STEM can help us develop: collaboration, creativity, communication, research skill. All those cannot be replaced with AI. So those are the skills that students should develop. Innovation skill, how they can create new opportunities for themselves, how they can look around locally and develop innovations that they can use to solve problems around them. They need to develop their STEM and robotic skills. They need to develop their soft skills, like their collaboration skill, like I mentioned earlier. And I think with that, they'll be good to go into like I tell my students, come, I'm not teaching you so that you can pass WAEC. However, it's important that you pass WAEC, but beyond your WAEC, there is the job market. So it's
Thank you very much
important
for
that
that
all these
feedback.
skills they are being developed to prepare them for the job market. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that feedback. Definitely, like you said, the landscape of works is changing. Like previously, when you had multiple people working in the banks, now that number can be slashed in half because most of the processes in the banks have been automated. In agriculture, people gone are the days when farmers just plant and hope, right? Hope for rain, hope for the products come out good. In fact, now predictive AI is making it possible for farmers to plant and even know before the due time what to expect, the outcome to expect from the agriculture. In education, also we're also looking at things like personalized learning, which is something that is key at Edverse and at the front of what we're doing, because we know that all learners are unique, right? No two people are the same. So how can a teacher fine tune a lesson to meet the different needs of learners in his or her classrooms? right? And you also talked about, aside from even the hardcore skills that students need to learn, coding, robotics, about aside from these skills, because the truth about these hardcore skills is that they keep evolving at a very fast rate. And trust me, some of these hardcore skills that you learn in 2025 as a primary school student, by the time you're getting to even secondary school, you'll be surprised that some of these hardcore skills are obsolete and new technologies taking over, right? But the soft skills, the 21st century skills, you talk about problem solving, collaboration, critical thinking, innovation. These are skills that, irrespective of when you learn it, it transcends time, right? And collaboration is also one very big part that I think is not talked about enough. I believe in Nigeria we have this mentality of my own, my own. Nobody wants to partner with others. Nobody wants to work with others. But once we start pushing this idea, and it also stems from a lot of things that happens in the classroom. By the time we start engaging students in more team-based activities, right? You get to see that students start becoming more trusting of other students. We start building children who can work with others, who can think about problems, who can work in teams. Because as the world is advancing, we're having in STEM, we're talking about the intersection of different academic fields into one space. So definitely, these are the skills that we would want our students to learn. We want our teachers to incorporate into our students. We want our school management and school owners to think about in the planning process for academic terms, for academic sessions. And I believe with these skills, we can move our students into the future of works that we so talked about. Thank you very much again, once again, Mrs. Adiola. So I'll be going into the comment section to take questions from our audience. Okay, so I have a question from Alison. So the question, I'll take it from the audience, and any of our speakers can respond to this question. So the question says, "Good evening. My question is this: Do you think that gender inequality in STEM can be solved without looking at the socio-cultural stereotype?" Okay, so this is I think Mrs. Jadisola, you talked about the gender roles. Let's see. But the question is open. Who wants to answer this question? The issue of socio-cultural stereotypes. Can we actually solve the problem of inequality in STEM without looking at socio-cultural stereotypes?
Mm. I think we touched on that, talking about even from the home, in terms of, parents themselves, starting from the home. Even simple things, if we're not even talking about STEM now, that, oh, certain things are for boys, certain things are for girls. Oh, yeah, you, Jadisola, head to the kitchen, to car, you go and help daddy wash the car. So I think even from a social cultural perspective, not even in education, just in general upbringing, some of that, as parents, we need to consciously, dispel. When we now go on to school and education, in fact, someone was just talking about something this morning in a program I clued in on. This young girl at school love science. She just did she was going into SS1, and apparently she went into her classroom that, okay, she wants to go into the science class, and the teacher just said to her, "Oh yeah, go to the arts class." And this girl was really distressed, so she came and told this lady who is a mentor that she doesn't know what she wants to do, that is really the science class she wants to do, but this teacher has just dismissed her and said, "Just go to the arts class. That's what I'm apportioning you." So the girl now went back. She was encouraged to go back to go and talk to the principal. That, "Ma, look, I did really well in my junior work. These are my results, but my teacher somehow has just, dismissed me that I should go to the art class." But thankfully, the principal listened, and this girl was able to go to the science class. So in my mind, I was thinking, if this girl hadn't pushed back a little bit, the trajectory of her life, would have changed, because a teacher seemingly just dismissed her request or didn't even bother to even look at her ability and just automatically assigned her to that. So I think the social cultural stereotype from the home, from the school setting, and even the agency for our young females, for them to be able to have that confidence to also, stand up as this young girl did. I think all those aspects, it's not going to happen overnight. We're seeing changes. It's probably not quick enough, but I think it's a drop in the ocean sometimes, but it's a drop nevertheless. Is what I say. So I think it takes all of us, together to ensure that those, some of those sociocultural stereotypes are somewhat, steered towards that equality actually that we're looking for around the STEM area and STEM skills and careers.
Thank you very much for that response. And yes, so I hope that answers your question, Miss Alice. Definitely it doesn't just take what is happening in the classroom, right? It's involved with what's happening at home, in our religious institutions. In fact, it takes the entire village. It takes everyone to be keyed into this goal of trying to balance out, to create a gender balance, especially in the STEM field. So definitely, we would all be involved in trying to resolve this issue. Okay, thank you for that question. Okay, so we're about rounding off the webinar for today. I'd like to appreciate our speakers who have thrilled us, who have informed us, who have shed lights on some of these key challenges that we are facing today. Ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of today's insightful and engaging webinar titled The Tech Frontiers, Education Beyond Limits, we actually want to express our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who took the time to join us. Your participation, your engagement, and your thought-provoking questions have made this session a truly enriching experience. Ma, I'd like to give a special thank you to our esteemed speakers, Mrs. Jadesola Adedeji and Mrs. Adeola Akinsulure, um, for sharing their expertise, their experiences, and their valuable insights on advancing STEM education. Your contributions have undoubtedly inspired us to rethink how we integrate technology into learning to prepare students for a rapidly evolving world. As we move forward, let's remember that STEM education is not just about technology, as we stated earlier. It's about equipping students with problem-solving skills, creativity, and innovation to shape the future. The conversation doesn't just end here. We encourage everyone to take action, explore adverse solutions, and continue engaging in meaningful discussions that drive real impacts in education. If you have further questions or need further information, do not hesitate to reach out. You can also stay connected with us for upcoming events and opportunities to collaborate. You can follow us on our social media platforms on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and Twitter, and on YouTube. And we will also be sharing key takeaways and resources from the session via email to everyone who registered and participated in this event. Um, Before we go off, I'd like to give our speakers an opportunity to give us one last word of encouragement, a word of support to the audience. So, Mr. Jadi, would you like to go first?
Okay, then. Yeah. So thank you to Edvest for putting this together. I think we have various stakeholders on here. I think to just reinforce that, the future is changing rapidly. We in Nigeria and we in the education sector, we don't want to continue to play catch up. So while things may not be happening on the national level, I think those of us in the education space, should continue to do what we can to ensure that our children are empowered with the relevant skills that they need for an unknown future. I see somebody here saying something. Oh, how does this lead to preschool or what? Even at preschool, I contend that they are age appropriate STEM activities that can be incorporated, and we even as STEMmates we advocate that the earlier the better, and we still contend that those foundational skills as they're learning their ABC, those cognitive skills, those are even the time that they are best developed, so that further on we're not reskilling and upskilling. So it's at the foundational level. The concept of STEM is not associated only with older children. Even STEM toys, Lego is a STEM toy, you know, touching, holding, grip, all of that, sorting, those are all part of STEM. So it starts at an early age. So I would say let's start early, for building the future for our children. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Mrs. Adiola, you have the final word. Hello, Mrs. Adiola, your mic is mute. Hello, Mrs. Adiola, are you still there? Oh, I think she's having network challenges. I think that's another problem we're actually facing. Over the past month, network has really been bad. Um, and as some of the challenges that we are facing personally, hopefully we start training our children towards thinking towards solutions that we can use to resolve these challenges. Mrs. Adiola, are you back? Oh, let me add you. Hold on.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Adela, we're asking for a final word to the people who tuned in to this live webinar
Yeah.
today.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to say thank you for having me on your big platform. Thank you, like I said earlier. And I would also like to re-emphasize Mr. Didi's words. Low tech, high impact. It is actually about the impact. It's not about the tech. No, it's actually about the impact. And I would say finally, collaboration, not competition. Whatever you do as educator, I'm speaking to the educators now, collaborate. Collaborate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. There's collaboration and not competition. So once again, thank you all for being part of this journey towards a tech-driven, inclusive, and limitless future in education. We look forward to working together to make STEM education more accessible, engaging, and impactful for all. So have a wonderful evening, everyone, and bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.